Use the Force, Luke.
Live long and prosper.
I was going into Toshi Station to pick up some power converters.
Lilu Dallas Multipass.
Shut up and take my money.
By Grabthar's hammer, what a saving.
One does not simply walk into Mordor.
X never, ever marks the spot.
Winter is coming. You're a wizard, Harry.
Stay a while and listen.
Hey ho, Kermit the Frog here.
Bow ties are cool.
So say we all.
This is a Play on Nerds. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, to episode 169 of A Play on Nerds.
Nice.
As always, I'm Steve. This other guy is
Jarman. Thanks for joining us.
And we're going to co-host the hell out of this thing. And this week, in honor of the upcoming film Renfield, featuring Nicholas Hoult and Nic Cage, we wanted to revisit the first time Nicolas Cage was in a vampire movie. That's right, folks. We're venturing back to talk about Vampire's Kiss, the 1988 Nicolas Cage classic.
And if I'm correct, it's the prequel to Renfield, right? Yeah, this is the prequel?
Sure. Yeah. They're definitely attached.
In some way.
But before we get to that, Jarman, what have you been up to since last time we talked?
Oh, well, last time we talked was a while back, I think, for us, recording schedule-wise. And I've been doing a lot of, I finished a play that I was in, and that was fun.
Is the Irish one?
The Irish one, yes. And that finished well. We had good audiences throughout. Good people said it was fun to watch and cute. It was nice and sweet. And then there's a lot of wedding planning. I have a wedding coming up in July 15th, and we've been doing a lot of sit-downs with the catering and the photography, the DJs and all that stuff, just trying to figure out how it's going to work, because Steven's going to be there. He's one of my two best men, so it's going to be great. But yeah,
I'm a great dude.
He is a best man of some sorts. But yeah, so that's been all consuming and stressful, but also just a lot of work. So that's what I've been up to. But Steve, you've done a lot since our last recording. What's been up with you?
All right. I moved across the country.
Yes, you did.
I bought a house.
Oh my goodness.
I started a new job.
Any one of those things are life changes that you can claim on your insurance.
We immediately pulled out all the carpet and padding from the house.
Oof.
Anna spent like a week and a half or almost 2 weeks sanding and sanding and then sanding some more. And then we stained the floor this last weekend, stained the entire upstairs floor, paid a guy to come in and put a drop floor on the bottom floor.
Nice.
Anna then did polyurethane.
Mm-hmm.
So she's been doing coats on all of the boards and stuff. And we hope that we are going to move in on Sunday, like actually start spending nights there.
Oh, and there we hear Steve's in the basement right now of his brother's house, and there might be footsteps and people running around.
Is having a shit fit.
Oh,
my brother's kid is having a shit fit upstairs.
Oh no! How old is she now?
She's 8 or 7. 7 coming up on 8.
Oh, I had plenty of shit fits when I was 7 and 8, so I get it. So if you hear something, folks, we're in transition, and we're always 2 episodes ahead in our recording schedule, but this is like live coming out tomorrow because we're
playing fast and loose
for a little while until we get all moved in and settled here. So it's going to be
happening. At our most dangerous.
And that same thing might happen around wedding time, so we'll see. But yeah, that's a lot, Steve. You handling it okay?
Man,
you coping?
I'm just tired a lot because the issue is like weekends and days off haven't been days off. We've been going over to the house by like 8 or 8:30 and working pretty much all day, and then coming home, leaving the kids with like either my brother and his wife or my parents, and then like seeing them at the end of the day. So like I haven't seen my children.
Oh.
Ann and I have not had any meaningful time together. I have not had a day off for like a real day off in 20 days or 25 days or something like that.
It'll all be worth it.
I'm ready to be done. Like I'm ready to have a day.
But it is nice that you're in a place where you have family that can watch the kids and that kind of thing. So that's great.
That's been immeasurable.
Exactly.
Like being able to leave them with people we trust and just walk away.
Yeah. You know, they'll be okay. They'll be safe. They'll be taken care of.
Yeah.
That is nice. Well, I hope it all works out well for you because we're going to come
God,
visit.
I hope.
We'll be there again in Pittsburgh sometime.
But now, do we have some feedback, I heard?
We do. So our last episode, we talked about the original Dungeons and Dragons movie in honor of the new one coming out, which I saw, by the way, and it was so amazing. It might be the first movie I buy on a Blu-ray or 4K or whatever the fuck people buy things on now, because it was so... Have you seen it, Steve?
Yes, a stork
Brought
delivered
it to you?
a copy amongst the move.
And how'd you like it?
I thought that it was good for like real hardcore D&D fans. Did enough fan service, but didn't linger on it.
Right.
Either you know it and you got the reference, or you didn't. It told a comprehensible story in a decent sequence with good pacing. Some of the character stuff, I was more or less not intrigued by.
Okay.
Specifically, the paladin character just didn't grab me.
I love the stereotype, though, of the overly lawful good paladin being
overly
like a
zealous.
dumbass.
Yeah.
He's kind of an idiot, and I love that.
So in that regard, yes, I guess that's also a reference. But yeah, no, I agree. I think like this is better than any other Dungeons and Dragons movie that's come out, and better than, I'm going to say, any other video game based movie that's ever come out. Maybe
it was a really good fantasy movie. It was just, I love how it was so funny. It was just did not take itself seriously, but still paid service to fans and actually had a compelling story that I wanted to follow. Like, so yeah, I just think it was really well done. But anyways, our episode about that, we referenced how Richard O'Brien, who played, I forgot the name of the character in the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Yeah.
Was in the
handyman.
Yeah. He was in the Dungeons and Dragons original movie and talked about a maze in that movie. And Daniel Peter Hitch from the Temporal Trek podcast and Cosmic Pizza podcast said, always enjoy the nerdy co-hosts as their nerdy audience. Was not expecting a Crystal Maze / Richard O'Brien reference. It's been so long since watching D&D 2000. Forgot he was in it. To which I said, always knew him from Rocky Horror, but I've never seen Crystal Maze. But now that I know it was so popular, I'm going to have to do some YouTubing to check it out. And he responded, oh, yeah, oh, hell yeah. It was addictive, must-watch TV back then. O'Brien was brilliant. Think Legends of the Hidden Temple as a team-building session for adults. And instead of 6 teams, it's 1 team a week, usually made of the accounting department from Brumblebread Tech Company in Slaw. So yeah, usually it's like an accounting department of some company would come on the show and be like the contestants and see who wins. And what the fun part was, after that message, the Crystal Maze blog responded with a video for us to watch of the intros for the Crystal Maze. And unfortunately, their video they shared wasn't available in our country, so we couldn't watch it. So we had a few back and forths, and they finally, Daniel Peter Hitch showed us some clips that we could actually watch. And we had a great back and forth with the Crystal Maze blog and stuff about like how 90s this TV show was. It was nuts. And apparently the guy at the Crystal Maze blog says he has a drinking game with friends where they try to guess how old the people are from the clips and videos of the contestants that they see on the Crystal Maze. Because it's all from the 90s and it's very 90s-tastic. So I recommend anyone who has not seen it, go check it out. It's pretty wonderful. So that was a whole thing that spawned just from that episode that we talked about Crystal Maze.
What can I say? We got a huge following in the UK.
It's true. And I think that brings us to some nerdy news.
Yeah.
It's time for Nerdy News.
All right, I just talked a whole bunch, but I'm going to talk a little bit more. So we got nerdy news here. Star Wars Celebration 2023 just made some pretty big announcements. A lot of stuff we knew about, but some stuff we didn't. 3 new movies are coming out that we were not aware of before. The director from Indiana Jones 5, Logan, and Deus Ex Machina, James Mangold, who I've loved all of those movies. Well, not 5 yet. I haven't seen that yet. He will direct a Star Wars movie that's based thousands of years in the past and will focus on the first ever Jedi, which I think sounds pretty awesome.
Okay.
Dave Filoni, who you might know from his name of producing tons of Star Wars TV shows and such. He's now directed a bunch of episodes of like The Mandalorian and other Star Wars TV shows. He's going to direct a movie as well. And it's going to be taking place in the same time period as a lot of the Disney Plus shows, probably Mandalorian and Ahsoka. And those are all taking place in the same time. Book of Boba Fett, that kind of thing. And then Rey is set to return from a new movie that's setting right after Rise of the Skywalker, and it'll be about the rebuilding of the Jedi Order. So that's interesting as well. What do you think of those 3 movies, Steve?
I like the like far prequel one.
Right, me too.
Like, God, anything that gets us away from the Skywalker saga.
Yes.
I thought we were done. If anything, the Rey one, like, oh, cool, it's great. But like, I'm so ready. There's such a big universe. Why do we keep coming back to the same 6 characters?
Yes. And there were all those
over
books.
and over.
All the books of the legends now, they're calling it, the things that are not canon anymore. There's so many great stories they can tell. So just go back farther. Yeah. In the same universe.
What was the 3rd movie? Which one was that?
Dave Filoni's going to make a movie that's going to be kind of bringing together characters that are in the TV universe right now.
Oh, they've been setting that crap up. You're going to get Boba. You're going to get Mando. You're going to get Ahsoka.
Exactly.
You're going to get that Wookiee guy.
The Black Sucker or whatever his name is.
Yeah. Black Sucker. What was his name?
It's Black something. He was called Black something, even though, yeah, he's just a dark looking Wookiee, but they called him Black something.
Get the assassin lady in there.
Ming-Na Wen. Yep.
Yeah.
It'll happen.
But
That'll be fine.
Like that's what they've been setting up for. It's fine.
But I'm most excited for the James Mangold because he is an amazing director. And if he's going to do the first Jedi movie, that sounds badass. Like I will totally watch that. And then for teasers that were released, we have Andor Season 2, Skeleton Crew, Ahsoka, and Acolyte. Skeleton Crew is apparently a new series that's like Star Wars but Goonies. So kind of like Jude Law's teaching a bunch of kids stuff, and it's set in the New Republic era, so the same time period as The Mandalorian, and described as a coming-of-age story. It centers on a group of 10-year-olds trying to find their way home after getting lost in the galaxy. So that's a thing that's happening. Acolyte is a show based on the High Republic era as well, or High Republic era. So that's before the New Republic. It's way back in the time, before the events of Phantom Menace, when the Jedi were all in power. And apparently it'll be a mystery thriller that will see a former Padawan and her old Jedi master on the case of a string of crimes, which leads them to encountering sinister forces. So that's what Acolyte's based on. Kind of like a film noir kind of show, set when the Jedis were in full power. So all over the place here. And Ahsoka we know about because it's she's a spinoff of the Mandalorian show and also a character that's been around from the cartoon shows for a long time. That'll release in August. And apparently the big surprise is that it'll feature Admiral Thrawn, played by Lars Mikkelsen, an actor you probably recognize if you saw his face, but he also voiced him in Star Wars Rebels, and he's a huge character from the books over the decades, apparently a fan favorite. Blue-faced guy. He's going to be in the show. And there was teasers for Bad Batch Season 3 and Tales of the Jedi Season 2, but I've not seen any of those because they're all cartoon shows that I don't watch. I'll probably watch them at some point, but I've not seen any of them. Steve, any thoughts on all that stuff?
Nah, I mean, the noir thing doesn't sound interesting to me. Like, oh, let's do a noir thing with Jedi. So it's like, so detective, but they all have magic powers. Like, aren't they just going to be able to know when someone's lying to them and
I
know
can
when
sense
something
you're
bad's
lying.
about to happen?
Yeah.
Like, that feels stupid, but who am I to judge? Skeleton Crew, I don't even know what to make of this concept. Jude Law teaches kids coming of age stories. What the fuck is this?
Accurate. I don't know. Either.
And Ahsoka is going to be good. Admiral Thrawn is much anticipated.
Right.
You're going to get callbacks from Rebels. In fact, there was recently a Mandalorian. I think there was a character from Rebels that showed up.
I did see something about that. Yeah.
So they're building a bigger universe, and that I'm okay with. At least they're not talking about Skywalkers.
Yes,
Like, I'll give them credit.
And they've wanted
Ahsoka's
Thrawn
a little
for
close,
decades.
but you know,
Yeah.
I don't know. It feels like they've said they're like, we're pulling back on the Marvel stuff. We're going to do less movies and less TV shows, and it feels like as that's going down, they're like, we're really going to push Star Wars. I
do feel like this is too much. They could use like one or two less of each of these. Like have 2 movies coming out, 1 TV show coming out. Like there's too much at one time. But
Agreed.
You know, who knows? Anyway, so I think that brings us to our main segment, Vampire's Kiss.
Vampire's Kiss.
Yeah. So this is a 1988 movie, Vampire's Kiss, with Nicolas Cage, and a popular meme came from this. This
I feel like there's 3 or 4 popular
There might
memes
be.
that came from this.
A, B, C, D, A.
E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N.
And then him just staring at the camera with this big smile that it also came from this movie. So I guess first we'll talk about what happens in this film. As the movie opens, we see Peter Lowe, a literary agent who has the typical 80s business bro, tons of drinking and cocaine, partying, sleeping with random chicks, and is terrible to his coworkers and his employees, especially Alva. Poor Alva, but we'll get to more to her later. He's seeing a therapist, thankfully, but he doesn't tell her everything that's going on with him, and it just goes on strange rants like the ABC rant, and is being really belligerent to her. He appears to be seeing one girl in particular on the regular named Jackie. She seems nice, but also matches him in crazy because she's very strange. He takes her home from the club to sleep with her one night, and before they can have sex, a bat flies in the window and scares them enough to stop and get dressed, and he's unable to catch it. But the next day, he tells his therapist about the incident, but also mentions that he is pursued, but as he was pursued by the bat, it made him really horny for some reason. She's like, oh, let's table that for next time. Then he takes Jackie to an art museum, but gets bored and abandons her. And this is back in the day without cell phones, so she can't just call him and figure out where the hell he went. And that night, he goes to another club, and he meets another chick there and takes her home, and her name is Rachel. And they are about to do it, and she suddenly reveals she has fangs and bites him, seemingly drinking his blood. Oh my god, she's a vampire. The next morning, though, Rachel is nowhere to be seen. He has no injury on his neck, and he seems to be talking to her even though she isn't there. He then cuts himself shaving right in the neck where the spot would be where she would have bitten him the night before. This is when he starts believing that he is turning into a vampire. He starts thinking he's sensitive to light, he's wearing sunglasses indoors, and he thinks he can't see his reflection in mirrors, even though we as the audience can see his reflection. He even goes to a store to buy fake vampire fangs since he's not actually growing any himself. He continues to think Rachel is visiting him every night to have sex and drink his blood, and he continues to talk to her the next morning when she's not actually there. All the while, he's completely terrible during this whole time, during it to his secretary, Alva, at work, he's tasked with finding this contract in a huge stack of files that will take weeks to find this one contract. First, he just screams at her at work. Then he chases her down the corridor like he's going to attack her. Then when she calls in sick because she's so afraid of him, he goes to her home to apologize just so he can trick her into coming back into work to keep looking for the contract. During all of this, she has a gun with no bullets in it just to protect herself in the subway. So she tries to actually get bullets for her to protect her from her boss, from her brother to protect her, but he only has blanks because his boss doesn't like having real bullets, so he only has blanks. This comes important later. This leads to his final interaction with Alva, where he is full-on attacking her, so she draws the gun to shoot him, and shoots just around him to scare him, but he begs her to actually shoot him. When she doesn't, he attacks her. He then takes her gun and tries to take his own life, but when he shoots himself in the head, it does nothing because she only has blanks in the gun. So now he really thinks he is an immortal vampire. And we then find out later on in the movie that after this, he apparently rapes her while she's unconscious. Now thinking he's a full vampire, he goes to a club to find someone to drink their blood. Oh, and before this, he had experimented with drinking blood by first eating a cockroach and then by drinking the blood of a pigeon in his apartment. He then walks around the club like he's Nosferatu and finds this isolated woman and kills her by biting into her neck with his fake fangs, the fake plastic fangs. He then goes down to the dance floor and sees the real Rachel that he originally slept with. She barely recognizes him, and she's now with another guy. He screams that he loves her and that he's a vampire like her now, and security grabs him and kicks him out. So now he's roaming the streets, covered in blood, crazed like thinking he's a vampire. He finds a piece of wood in the streets that resembles a stake and asks passersby to kill him with it. He then starts to hallucinate a session with his therapist where he tells her that she tells him that she has another client that he would be perfect for in a relationship. He then confesses to her that he is raped and murdered, and she says that's totally okay, and he should just go live his life with this new love that he's hallucinating. He now starts heading home with his newly hallucinated love interest. Meanwhile, Alva has told her brother Emilio what happened, so he drives with her to Peter's apartment to kick some ass. Peter has entered his apartment and has already gotten into an argument with his imaginary girlfriend in his apartment that's been completely destroyed by this time in the movie. He's destroyed his apartment throughout the movie. Peter starts to throw up from the blood that he actually drank and covers himself in his upturned sofa to act like a coffin. Emilio enters, finds him, throws over the sofa, and Peter begs him to kill him with the stake of wood that he has there. Emilio obliges brutally and stabs him with the plank and leaves the apartment. And it ends with Peter slowly dying as he sees the imaginary Rachel vampire staring at him one last time. And that we have Vampire's Kiss, a very strange movie. So, Steve, give me some thoughts.
Okay. So, some things I liked. It was, even though it was eccentric, it was consistently eccentric.
Right.
It kept the same tone throughout the whole movie. So I put crazy but consistent. Alva Restrepo, who played his secretary, Maria, really did her utmost to stand up against the absurdity of Nicolas Cage.
Oh, she did a great job.
She was really there trying to sell this insanity.
Yeah.
And this is kind of love-hate. Once he got the vampire teeth, the absurdity escalated dramatically. And you thought the movie was already nuts. And then it's like a car where you're like, oh, we're going so fast. And you go, wait a minute, there's another gear. Like, that's what they found in this movie.
We're going even farther now.
There's a fifth gear. Oh my God. Disliked, there were some major pacing issues. Specifically in the second act, with him getting crazier and crazier and him like being more abusive towards the secretary. It got really repetitive and it didn't develop anything. And then things really fell off at the end. And this is sort of my issue, is this is clearly supposed to be like in his psyche that all this is happening.
Right.
But there were enough kind of weird, almost unexplainable things earlier in the film that they didn't make clear were him hallucinating.
Right.
So, like, it looks like that woman drinks his blood. It looks like she has vampire fangs. It looks like they do it multiple times and he's becoming her thrall. Like, there's nothing in that scenario to make us believe necessarily that something's not happening, that he's hallucinating it.
Well, the very next morning, he's in the kitchen, in like the shower, talking to no one who's there. Like, so you're kind of like, oh, he hallucinated this whole thing. But
it wasn't until the very end when he's like literally covered in blood with a piece of wood talking to himself while having this fantasy about his therapist.
Yeah.
That it's like, oh, okay, this really is all in his mind. Because even before that, at the club, he has that moment where he spots the woman and they have that full conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And then she's with a guy and pretends not to know him, which easily could have been construed as like, even if she was a vampire, she's just making him look crazy.
Well, she says like, oh, I remember you. How are you doing? It's just like she said she did, like she knew him, but she hadn't seen him for a long time.
Right,
so like,
right. But even that could be just, but that's the thing. Like,
right.
The whole thing is he was trying to reveal that she was a vampire in front of a crowd of people.
But also, did you notice it was a different actress?
Really?
Yeah. So the actress
sure?
It is when he goes to hit on her in the cubicle, or not the cubicle, the what do you call it, at a restaurant? What's it called? A booth.
Yeah.
The first time he hits on her in the booth, it's that same actress. And then as soon as it's back at his apartment, it's a totally different actress, Jennifer Beals, who's actually white. But the actress who he meets at the beginning and at the very end, that's a mixed actress. It's not the same actress. It's not just
right, but that's the girl he's dating, though, right?
No. He's dating like, yeah, probably like a mixed person as well. But that's a different actress entirely. So like, it's not this. There's three different actresses. One, the girl he's dating. One, the girl he meets in the booth. And then there's the vampire. But then he goes back to meeting that girl in the booth later on. It's a totally different actress.
See, I'm not buying that. I'm watching this. I'm looking at this cast guide, not an IMDb, and I'm not seeing a third actress that meets your description.
I will prove it. I will prove it.
I'm not seeing a third actress that meets this description.
But
anyways, Kathy Lemons, who played the woman he was dating and then fell off with. I see Jennifer Beals, who played the vampire chick through and through.
Right.
Maria Conchita Alonso, who played Alva.
Might be Sharon. Who's Sharon? Nope, that's his secretary, I think.
No, it's Maria Conchita Alonso as the secretary.
Oh, no, not that secretary. The other secretary.
Oh, got it.
His secretary. Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe And maybe I'll need to rewatch it. I probably won't, but maybe I will.
Oh no, that's the girl he kills. Never mind.
Yeah, there you go.
Still, I think it's a different actress. If you go back and look at your.
I'm not going to.
The copy the
I'm
store
never
gave
rewatching
you.
this movie.
It's definitely a different actress for
No,
sure.
I watched this on Pluto TV.
Oh, on Pluto TV.
It was available.
Yeah.
Yeah, Pluto TV has a lot of old, shitty free movies, and this was amongst them. So overall, eccentric, fun, crazy, weird pacing, odd storytelling choices. And I think Anna's comment was, it's a really bad version of American Psycho.
Yes. Well, we'll get into that later because that actually comes into play. My good things, though, I think it was actually, I will back this up because when I was watching this, I thought it was very much like a David Lynch, like American Psycho type of movie as well. Those like Chuck Palahniuk movies like Fight Club and those kind of things. Very surreal, strange, because at first I hear that accent from Nic Cage that he's using this whole movie, and I was like, what the hell's going on? But then the whole movie got really surreal and weird. So I think it's actually really good acting from Nic Cage throughout. Like he consistently, as you said, was weird throughout this whole performance. And when he starts to lose his mind, I really believe it. Another good thing is the mood and the whole feeling of this movie feels like an art film almost. I was not expecting this. We saw like a horror comedy film from the 80s, and I was not expecting this kind of movie to come out of it. It's very weird. But also like you said, the Mestrepo, her character of Alva, like people bouncing off of Cage's vibes, the therapist, they all did very well not reacting to how he was being crazy and just being kind of more normal. But like you said, also the way it kind of dragged because the way he was tormenting Alva, the secretary, we didn't get a good explanation of why he was doing that so much. It didn't feel motivated by the rest of the movie. Like, yeah, he's becoming a vampire. Why is he treating her like garbage? Like, what is the motivation behind this? And it just felt repetitive. Like you said, like, I feel bad for Alva. Why is he doing this? This is not related to the movie. This is terrible. But also, we don't know what caused him to lose his mind. Why is he losing his mind? I wish they gave some explanation to why this happened.
Yeah, like he's in therapy at the beginning of the movie, but
Yeah.
that's kind of the only insight we get.
I didn't like that either. Like, we have no reason why this person is going nuts. So that kind of bothered me. And also just like, we don't like the protagonist. This is something I didn't like either. Like, I get there's some movies that have anti-protagonists, but when he admits to becoming a rapist and a murderer, and it's just like, we have no reason to have any kind of sympathy or anything for this character. He's just completely terrible. Even from the get-go, he doesn't go from a good guy to a bad guy. He's just always terrible. So like, I didn't like that about the movie, that like there's no feeling for him at all. He's just awful the whole time. So
Agreed.
that's a thing. Yeah. So some trivia for this film. So we want to do?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So Nic Cage, if you want to watch this movie, he eats a cockroach live on film, and it's real. It took 3 takes, so he ate 3 cockroaches. About the experience, he said, "Every muscle in my body didn't want to do it, but I did it anyway." And the cockroach scene was entirely Nic Cage's idea, a decision he greatly regretted later on. Cage also received a number of calls from animal rights activists about the scene and defended his actions by asking them if they could honestly declare that they'd never used a can of Raid in their homes. So he ate 3 cockroaches for this movie. Disgusting. Christian Bale had used Nic Cage's performance in this film as inspiration for his role as Patrick Bateman in American Psycho. And I thought the same thing as Steve. I'm like, oh my God, this reminds me so much of American Psycho. And that's because Christian Bale used this as inspiration for that film. Makes so much sense.
Yep.
Nic Cage's strange accent is supposed to be a fake accent used by the character because he thinks he sounds more elegant and smarter, hence the literary agent job. The accent comes and goes throughout the movie and is more prominent when trying to impress people and less in scenes with people like the psychiatrist, where he's being more of himself. In a 2018 GQ interview, Nic Cage stated this is his favorite movie that he's ever made, was this movie. 2018. In the DVD commentary, director of this movie, Robert Bierman, reveals that the furniture and glass Peter, or Nic Cage, destroys in his apartment after his girlfriend dumps him is all real furniture and glass. The scene could only be shot in one take. 2 cameras were on the set for the shot and one of them broke during that time. And he still can't believe how he allowed Cage to perform such a potentially hazardous stunt on screen. It's nuts. And during the scene where Peter catches a pigeon, this is Nic Cage as well, the pigeon was actually drugged in order for Nic Cage to easily catch it, but Cage wasn't told that the pigeon was drugged, which is nuts. And for the role of Nic Cage that he had as part of Peter Lowe, Judd Nelson, Sylvester Stallone, John Travolta, and Arnold Schwarzenegger were all considered for the role of this Peter Lowe character. And the last one, the shots of him walking down the street at the end, where he's clearly insane and talking to himself, were filmed with a long lens from a distance. And the people walking past him are actual folks unaware that a movie is being filmed, because he wasn't that famous at the time, so they didn't really recognize him. And
right.
There's a couple that says, where he says to them, "I'm a vampire, kill me," while holding a stake. Those people aren't actors, but real pedestrians passing by who have no idea they're filming a scene, and their reactions are genuine. So it's a weird film overall, and these things make it even stranger. The trivia behind it is just nuts. So Vampire's Kiss, folks. It's a thing. So, Steve, you got a bit for us?
Oh, do I? Let me switch over to my Apon Secrets tab.
Secrets.
All right. I'm calling this one, You Got Bit?
Very appropriate.
That's right. It's a bit called You Got Bit.
I love it.
I'm going to name 10 actors who have portrayed vampires in film. And you get a point if you could tell me the movie.
I love it.
All right. Are you ready to play? You Got Bit?
Let's do it.
All right. Antonio Banderas.
Oh, I know this. Is it Dusk Till Dawn?
No, that is incorrect. It's Interview with a Vampire.
That's right. Of course. Damn it.
All right. Jude Law.
I know I've seen it too. Dracula 2000.
No, this one was harder. Immortality.
Oh, I think I've seen it. Yep, I think I've seen it.
All right. Willem Dafoe.
He did it in that Alaska vampire movie. Something about darkness. 40 Days of Darkness? 40 Days of Night.
No, that is incorrect. He was in Shadow of the Vampire. Where he played the actor portraying Nosferatu. He also played a vampire in 2009's Cirque du Freak with John C. Reilly.
I've also seen Shadow of the Vampire where he plays Count Orlok. Yeah,
you and I remember you making me watch that.
Yeah,
I remember.
It was a good flick. All
right. Gary Oldman.
Dracula. Yeah. What's his face is Dracula. Yeah.
I'll give it to you. It's Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Yeah.
You're right. Absolutely right.
Thank you. Oops, I played both the sounds. There we go.
All right. Cheech Marin.
That will be Dusk Till Dawn.
That is from Dusk Till Dawn. You're absolutely correct. All right. Parker Posey.
Ooh. That's a good one. I feel like that's a comedy. Let's go Scary Movie.
No, Blade Trilogy.
Oh.
Blade Trinity.
Trinity. Yes, I love the Blade movies.
All right. Chloe Grace Moretz.
The Let the Right One In.
I'm going to give it to you because
close.
It was the adaptation of that film.
Oh,
Let the Right One In is the original name of the film. It's called Let Me In was the American name.
Well, thank you for giving that to me because I got the
because you knew the right thing.
Yeah. I saw it. I saw the original and the new one. It was very good.
All right. Kellen Lutz.
Fucking Lutz. That one I have no idea.
That'd be the Twilight movies.
Oh, okay.
All right, there's 2 left.
I've seen those 2.
Danny Trejo.
Is that Dusk Till Dawn sequel?
That is, it's for Dusk Till Dawn.
Okay, good. Okay,
you got it. He plays the bartender.
Right. I thought he did.
All right, this is your last one. Christopher Lee.
So many. But he played Dracula a few times.
He did.
Dracula Returns. Is that one of them?
No. So he played Dracula in a series of films called The Horror of Dracula.
Mm.
And then in 1971 recounted the role in simply Count Dracula.
Oh, okay. I would never have known that. I knew he played it before.
All right, Jordan, you got 1, 2, 3, 4 out of 10.
Yay.
Not bad for you got bit.
But also not great.
Not great either, no.
Well, that brings us to some radical recommend.
I recommend.
If you have the means, I highly recommend picking one up.
What do you recommend I do?
I recommend Pleasant.
All right, some quick radical recommends here. I just had a chance to rewatch the John Wick trilogy because I was getting prepared to maybe see John Wick 4, which I don't know when I'll see it, but it's actually really fun now that I'm able to see it in succession because they basically take place right after each other. I watched them as they came out, and you just don't remember all the details, but they are really fun. They go well together. It all connects, and Keanu Reeves is a joy. The fight scenes are fantastic, and the mythology they're building is kind of fun. So yeah, I recommend watching those. If you have already seen them, watch them together if you have the opportunity to, or at least close together. And then honorable mention, I'll mention Barbarian. Movie came out about 1 or 2 years ago. Horror film. If you're into horror flicks, it's really weird, gross, funny, strange, and entertaining. And it's got Justin Long, who's a terrible person, Bill Skarsgård, and something you've totally never seen him in before, and this main actress I haven't seen before, Georgina Campbell. She's really good. But it's scary, and it's weird, and it's fun, but also funny. Like, it's really good. Have you seen either of these things, Steve?
I mean, the John Wick trilogy, yes.
Gotcha. Yeah.
I haven't seen the new one. I haven't seen 4.
I haven't either.
And I've heard of Barbarian, but don't really know anything about it.
Well, if you're into horror films, but also ones that are fun and funny, but also really scary and dark, it's one of them. It's good.
Okay.
It's on Netflix, I think.
I like Justin Long.
Yeah, he's always entertaining. And he's a different kind of part for him in this movie too. It's funny. Okay. It's worth checking out. It's a lot. All the previews all said it was like the scariest movie of the last decade. And it's like, yeah, it was scary, but it was really funny too. Like, this is a funny movie. So
you will shit someone else's pants.
Exactly. And they all said that was all the advertising, but it was really funny. It was a fun movie. So, but it was, yeah. Anyways, worth seeing. But yeah, that's some recommendations. Here's some trailer reviews.
All right, this week on trailer reviews, we've got the new trailer for the much anticipated The Marvels.
Yeah.
Bringing together Captain Marvel. We don't know what she's going to be called. Maria Rambeau, maybe Photon. We're not sure yet.
Yeah.
And Miss Marvel. From television. And likewise, this movie was teased at the end of the Miss Marvel television show.
That's right.
And now we get to see the premise where Carol Danvers, Miss Marvel, and Rambeau are switching places as they use powers. They are somehow interlocked and therefore have to go on an adventure together to accomplish something huge.
Yeah, it seems like in the beginning, at least, that whenever they use their powers, they switch places with another of the three or something like that.
Yeah. That's how I gauged it.
Yeah, it looks that way.
I think this looks fun. I really liked Miss Marvel.
Me too. Yeah.
The show. The Captain Marvel movie wasn't my favorite, but maybe this will bring it back for me.
You know what I wish is that we had a movie with, well, hopefully soon, with Peter Parker and Kamala Khan. Because they're both like great. Around the same age. They're both silly and fun. That'd be a lot of fun.
Like street level Avengers.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we need more of that. We need more street level
They'd
stuff.
be buddies too. Like they're both goofy and funny and cool and fun. But I like the dynamic of the three of these people in this movie. Like two of them being kind of more serious, and her Kamala Khan just being like, "What's going on?"
Literally a fangirl.
Yeah, exactly. And I also love that incels are going to lose their minds over this because it's three women in a movie, and good. I hope they lose their minds.
And no guys to be seen.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Except for, what's his face?
Yeah, who's he what?
Samuel L. Jackson, who's in every movie. But he's, he's in this too. But
I mean, he's getting old. He needs the money.
he's been in like 400 movies. He's fine.
He's like 70 something though.
Yeah, probably almost 80 at this point, but he's doing fine.
Yeah, man. Let's see. How old is Samuel L. Jackson?
74, I'm going to guess.
Samuel Jackson. Samuel Jackson. He's 74. He's 74 years old.
That's
Good guess.
Yeah, he's fine. He's doing all right, but he's getting older. He's got a lot left in there.
For contrast, Lawrence Fishburne, only 61.
Lawrence Fishburne's only 61?
Right?
I think he'd be a lot older than that.
I know. I gauged it wrong too.
Damn. Well, there you go.
Well, so I think my rating for this movie is Gary Busey and Raul Julia. And Gary's like, all right, now every time I use my powers, we're going to switch places. And he closes his eyes and squints them really hard and then runs over to where Raul Julia is standing and pushes Raul. And he opens his eyes like, see, I teleported. We switched places.
But what does Raul Julia say?
He goes, can I please go back to bed now? It is 4 a.m.
I love it. Well, I'm going to have my rating be one Gary Busey going, I don't like it. There's no white man in it. And then Raul Julia saying, you heathen. You are such a terrible incel. I can't believe I'm your roommate. Because somehow in the mythos of this show over the many years, Raul Julia and Gary Busey, they're roommates. That's just how it works. They're like
the Odd Couple, but with way more drugs.
I'm not watching the show. This movie. There's no white man in it.
Well, it's my night to control the remote.
This is what we watch.
Last night we watched Teletubbies on mute for 4 hours like you wanted, and tonight it is my turn.
The night before that, we watched Blue Bloods over and over again. Now we're watching something more progressive. Anyways, so that is the end of episode 169 of the A Play on Nerds podcast. Nice. Join us next time in just a couple weeks for episode 170, where we're going to be watching the adventures of Buckaroo Banzai across the 8th dimension. And you know what that's in honor of, folks? Another cowboy mission in space, the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, which is coming out soon after that episode. So check in next time for the adventures of Buckaroo Banzai across the 8th dimension.
That's right. Check in next week. Be our nerdy audience. We'll come back and be your nerdy co-hosts. Thanks again, Internet.
Stay nerdy, my friends. Thanks for listening to A Play on Nerds. Feel free to email feedback at aplayonnerds.com with all your questions or comments.
Shoot us a message on Facebook or Twitter and earn yourself a sweet shout out on the show.
Review us on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts so even more nerds can find us. Tell your friends, tell your enemies, we aren't picky.
Check out our entire back catalog and other offerings at aplayonnerds.com.
And how?